Audubon 2456.
State of the Save is back. Man, it feels like I just talked to everybody last week. Almost like I did. Man, I'm excited. This is going to be a really great episode. Nick is away, so that means it's Michael and my time to talk about some Star Wars.
Long have I waited.
Long have we both waited. And already talking Michael. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great today.
Yeah, it's a good day.
It's a good day. Very good day.
Nick would make fun of us the whole time as we did a Star Wars episode. So now that Nick is gone for this week,
he's going to listen along with you guys and make fun of us.
Yes.
But he won't be on mic when he does it.
No, we'll get made fun of. But
for sure.
Yeah, he just won't be on mic to do it. I'm sure he'll send in his comments to us later. But yeah, really excited today. We are talking Star Wars Republic Commando, which I believe, when this goes live, actually comes out on a re-release on Switch and PlayStation 5 or 4 tomorrow.
That is correct.
And also, you can buy a physical copy of this game on limited release, limited run games.
Oh, they're doing a re-release package? Oh, that's cool.
It's $30 for the Switch version, and then the PlayStation gets I think it's like an $80 collector's edition.
Does it include like a statue or something?
I don't think it includes a statue. I think it comes in like a metal, like a stamp case.
Ooh.
That's the Commando helmet.
Oh, that's cool.
It looks cool. I was looking at it last night because I was looking at, they did a limited release for Doom 64 on there.
Oh yeah, they're doing like a Doom like classics collection with 1, 2, 3, and 64. I think
64 is already sold out. Doom 2 is, I believe, sold out. Doom is not sold out, and I actually might get myself that Doom limited run just because it's a cool thing to have. I mean, it's not something that, you know, it's not something everybody's going to have. You can't just walk into the store and grab. If you've never checked out the limited run, I think it's limitedrungames.com.
Limited run, that sounds right.
Yeah. If not, if you put that in Google, it'll pop up. But they have some cool stuff. They do a lot of indie games and stuff like that. But it's perfect timing for our Republic Commando talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's just some business up top. Last week, we had the first release of our File Corrupted bonus show thing. I had a really good time hanging out with my buddy Zach, who was our first guest on the show, which is pretty cool. First of many. We talked about Doom Eternal. We really talked about Doom the franchise, but then we talked a lot about the Ancient Gods Part 1, just in time for Part 2 that just came out. And we're going to, I said it on the show, so I'll say it again. We're going to get together and do an Ancient Gods Part 2. Zach is a Doom fanatic. We really both enjoy that franchise a lot. So it was a really good talk. There's a lot of fun stories in there, too. You want to hear about Ric Flair? Me meeting Ric Flair and him meeting Shaq within a 2-block radius of each other, oddly enough. There's some fun stories on there. So go listen to File Corrupted. It's on this feed. And this is kind of our bonus show that we're going to be trying out a bunch of stuff. Michael, me and you were talking about our next one.
Yeah, I want to do a ranking of every Persona battle theme, because being very much into Persona 5, those battle themes slap. So I wanted to see, do all the battle themes slap? And sure enough, most of them do. So I definitively ranked them, and so I'm going to have you on the show and force you to listen to some Persona music. 21 tracks of battle themes.
What we're going to do is Mike was going to put them in his ranking, and we'll play them on the show, so you'll hear little clips. Obviously, not enough to get us in legal trouble, but we'll play some clips. And then what I'm going to do as a outsider of the Persona series is I'm going to rank those songs by my own slap meter. Doing the definitive Eric Bop of the Persona series. So this is going to be fun. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be seeing on File Corrupted. It's going to be the wacky off-the-wall show. Once again, it will not replace this show. This show is our consistent show. We will always do State of the Save every 2 weeks. We talk about video game reviews, video game book club, all that fun stuff. But File Corrupted is our off-the-wall crazy bonus show that we're hoping that everybody's enjoying so far. So far, I've heard good feedback. I think people enjoy it. But that's not what we're here to do today. Today, we're here to talk about Star Wars Republic Commando, But before we do that, let's talk about some other video games we've been playing. Michael, what you been playing? What you been going on?
One game that I've dove headfirst into since it was on sale is Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate. Now, Mortal Kombat is a franchise that I've played growing up since I had a Sega Genesis since basically I was born. My dad had one, and Mortal Kombat was one of the games that he had on it. So, franchise I'm very familiar with. Played, I believe, all the games at least once, something or another in an arcade a couple of times, or owning it back on the PS2, GameCube days. But recently, Mortal Kombat has been something where I wait until, because of all the DLC, wait until like the definitive, here's the last release to get into it, because it has all the characters and everything before I get into it. This was the PS5 version, so it has the faster loading times, has the 4K resolution, has all the characters. You can play as the Terminator, which is pretty good.
It's similar with like the Injustice franchise, where you want to wait for that definitive because you get almost the entire game's worth of characters that are DLC. Like, they do at least 8 to 9 characters. So like, I feel like you're missing out if you get that regular edition now, but also at the same time it saves you a lot of money from having to buy all those DLC characters.
That's true.
Or season passes.
So, one thing NetherRealm has always done incredibly well is their story mode. And Mortal Kombat 11 with the Ultimate Edition, this is the first time they had a DLC story campaign.
I did not know they had a DLC story campaign.
Yeah.
I know that their story campaigns are legitimately way better than any fighting game deserves. Like, you know, you look at like a Marvel vs. Capcom or a Street Fighter story.
Injustice 2 was better than any DC movie that I think they put out since like The Dark Knight.
Dude, that's some dangerous statements you just made.
Injustice 2 is like the definitive Justice League movie.
Okay, the Snyder Cut people...
And it's presented in 16:9. Take that, Snyder.
The Snyder Cut people are coming for us now. You know that, right?
I'm sure it's... I haven't watched it yet. I'm sure it's fine, but...
I actually plan on watching that thing, the 4.5 hour...
You gotta set aside an afternoon for that thing.
Man, you gotta set aside a week. Also, that Injustice like game story wise was so good. It actually spawned a very successful comic series.
Is it still going?
No, it actually ended recently.
Gotcha.
But that book was one of DC's top selling series. They actually started it off for a while there. DC was doing these digital first weekly books. They were super cheap, and they were shorter than a normal comic.
I was reading it up to the release of the first game, where I was buying the... Because they were 99 cents each. They were only $1 each digitally. So I was just reading the Injustice books up to the release of the first game. Because I was very excited for, like... You telling me the guys behind MK9, like, at the time, I was like, the best fighting game ever made is making a DC fighting game? That's awesome.
That book launched... The writer of that book, Tom Taylor... it pretty much launched his career in comics. Like, he was around, but that was the book that pushed him. And it also, that thing sold so well that I was pretty sure, and I might be a little bit wrong here, but it became one of DC's top 3 selling books.
I believe it.
And that was unheard of. And nothing else caught on like that from that DC initiative except that Injustice book. So that story that they built, and in the game it's a good story, but the world that they kind of built existed for a long period of time. If you like those games, you can go listen and read all those Injustice books, and they're great. There
is a bit at the end of Injustice 2's story that will not hit you nearly as hard if you haven't read the comics. But if you have read the comics, like, it sticks, and it's just that whole world that they built.
They do a great
DC
job.
And NetherRealm built is incredible. But even their Mortal Kombat stories, because 9 was kind of a a mixture, like both a reboot and a sequel to the previous storyline, and this kind of Mortal Kombat 11 dealing with time travel and a villain who's obsessed with creating the perfect timeline is a very interesting way to handle all of the Mortal Kombat stuff. And then there is a DLC campaign which takes place after the main events called Aftermath, which is they do a really cool thing of, like, this DLC campaign is focused a lot on the DLC characters. Because usually DLC characters come in, they don't matter much to the story. This is like, oh, here's Shang Tsung and Fujin and Nightwolf doing their thing, going on an adventure in an event that takes place at the same time. So it like kind of weaves in a bunch of the stuff. So it's really cool.
It's a lot more grand than any fighting game I've ever played. I mean, and also it takes a lot more risk than most of those games. Like fighting game stories, 99.9% of the time are show up at this place, fight this guy, get told that there's another guy, go fight him, because it's just an excuse to link together a bunch of fights with a bunch of different characters.
This is pro wrestling. It's good written pro wrestling. There's heel turns. There's like massive face turns. Like ever since MKX, they made Scorpion like a good guy, and he's awesome because he's bros with Sub-Zero. And you're like, this is awesome. They're like just going around high-fiving each other and just like, this is amazing.
Well, also, it takes these little things that only super diehard Mortal Kombat fans or fans of the movie cared about.
Let me tell you about how Shang Tsung is played by the same actor as he is in the 1995 movie. And still hamming it up as always and is absolutely wonderful. Now, not all of the voice acting is great. There's one heavily miscast. Everyone's great except for they felt the need to be like, hey, Sonya Blade, really good voice actress from MKX. Let's replace her with Ronda Rousey.
Okay, yeah, I remember they did like some vignettes around the announcement of her being in the game. And it was her, like, in the studio talking about the, like, the character. And obviously, I think she's actually a fan of the series and this, that, and the other.
That's cool,
but
I guess.
Even the vignettes of her, like, in the studio talking, they couldn't find a good take. So even when they're, like, trying to hype you up about Ronda Rousey, at the time, I believe, Raw Women's Champion, at one point in time, one of the most dominant female MMA fighters of all time until she stopped being dominant at all, got knocked out a couple of times. They really, really hyped her up, and none of the takes I saw of her was any good. And then when I saw her in game, whoo, that's some choices.
There's a DLC where you can replace her with a different actress.
Okay, that says all you need. That they released a DLC.
To be fair, it also includes 95 movie Johnny Cage and Christopher Lambert Raiden.
All of these things sound great.
It is great. That's the one DLC that doesn't come with the Ultimate Edition. I'm like, you are going to make me chill out $6 for Christopher Lambert Raiden. Just because he talks like this.
But also,
I'm the God of Thunder. And I'm like, I love it so much.
That's $6.
He has white lightning.
What?
He has, like, good Raiden has blue lightning. Bad Raiden, Dark Raiden has red lightning. But if you get Christopher Lambert Raiden, he has white lightning. And I'm like, dang, that's awesome.
It's because they have to do, they got to make sure that you also pay that $6 to get rid of Ronda. So it's that's a smart thing to leave that one off. Because if you are super committed to that game, you really want to really dig deep, you're going to spend the $6 to get rid of Ronda. But the other stuff is just bonus.
I won online matches. That never happens in these fighting games.
I win online matches at the first week of a fighting game. And then I will never win a match again.
It's probably because it was on sale and people are just now getting it for like the new consoles and everything. So I'm like, I'm on an equal playing ground with some of these guys. There was someone as Sub-Zero just doing low punch the entire time. So I think I lucked out there. But hey, if you win, I think 2 ranked matches per season, you get a skin.
Oh man,
which is a good way of doing it. Just being like, hey, feel good about yourself. You won some ranked matches. Here you go.
Well, it's a good way to push you into ranked. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I played a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I would try to play online. I didn't play a lot, but I played enough that I would go on there every once in a while. And because the competitive scene on that thing was so high, it was just I just never went on ranked. Mm-hmm. And if you gave away skins, things like that, I'm a lot more likely to actually give ranked a try. My favorite little story recently, they came out with a Power Rangers fighting game.
I saw that.
And I got that and played that, and I think the first week it came out, and won 20 straight ranked matches.
Oh man, you gotta stop right there. You gotta be 20-0.
I deleted the thing when I lost my first match.
Oh no!
So on that thing, I think I am 20-1 because I got it. I didn't cheap, like I didn't find like a cheap combo or anything. I played the little bit of the story. I think there was like a single achievement for playing one ranked match. So I was like, I'll play a ranked match. Played it, beat the guy. I was like, ooh, I'll play another one. Beat him. 20 matches later, I lost my first match. And I said, it's over. It's done. Never again. Deleted it from my hard drive.
That's how I feel whenever I play those Battle Royale games. Whenever I do number one, I'm like, what else is there to do? I'm victorious.
That's how I feel in every game except Apex. Because Apex, there was a point, this is like going to sound very arrogant. There was a point where every night I won at least one match. Because I played a ton of Apex and I really, really enjoyed it. And so that was when I got to the point where you get into that next tier of exception, where like you win one and you just get accustomed to winning. So every time you go out in like the first 20, it was just like this infuriated rage quitting kind of stuff. Like, how dare I not be number one? But yeah, I mean, I will never be like the expert fighting game guy. It's just not in my blood. Anything else you've been playing other than MK?
Persona 5 Royal, 50 hours in, about to beat the 5th dungeon.
I'm about to say 50 hours in, about 1/5 of the way there.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I'm about actually at the halfway point, honestly.
Okay, so you're getting there.
It's September in the story, going on October.
Okay.
So we're moving forward.
Moving right along. I re-downloaded the Messenger because it struck me as just one of those things. I was sitting there, had a little trip. I wanted something from my Switch. I put the Messenger on there thinking I'd just fiddle with it for 5-10 minutes. And I've now hit the boss that held me up the last time. So my obsession is kicked back in. I can fly through that game all the way up to that one boss. If you know the boss, it's the boss at the hell level, the demon general guy.
Oh yeah, that dude.
He's the only one in that game that gives me any trouble at all. Something about his pattern just is so erratic. I have a hard time with him.
And that game is so good.
Oh, that's great. It's great.
Love that game.
I've been getting ready for our next game, obviously, but been a lot of really, really cool stuff added to Game Pass with the Bethesda stuff. So I'm staring down Morrowind.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that on the File Corrupted show.
Yeah.
That Morrowind is drawing you.
I'm just looking at it going, maybe, but that's such a commitment. And it's also, if you think Oblivion is a little bit difficult to go back to, going back to that one's going to be a little bit rough.
I bought Morrowind on disc whenever they announced that they were doing Xbox backwards compatibility. Like, surely they'll put Morrowind on there, and they did. Going back and playing Morrowind, let me tell you a story about how I got into... Basically, all of the encounters, all of your hits are dice rolls, like invisible dice rolls. So you don't actually... Every time you swing your sword, it rolls a dice in the background and tells you if you hit the guy or not. I had to do a bit where I had to go break into somebody's house and steal something. I got spotted because my stealth wasn't working properly, and the guy grabbed what he needed and he had on his person. So I was like, okay, I'll just knock this dude out. Because I don't want to kill him, because I'm trying to play a good guy. So I'm just going to knock him out. So we got in a fist fight. 10 minutes into this fist fight, because every time I could land a successful hit, he would just regenerate that health whenever I could hit the next hit. So we were in an endless loop of punching each other for about 10 minutes.
The only thing that holds me up is that kind of combat. You remember Mass Effect 1 had the whole thing where the damage was a dice roll, so you would headshot guys and it would not give you the headshot damage. It would be 12.
I also remember that it locked out certain... This is going to be fixed in the remaster, that certain classes could not use weapons at all, even though you had them in your inventory. You can equip the sniper rifle, but you can't aim down sights on it because for some reason military veteran Shepard does not know how to look through a sights on a sniper rifle because he's like, oh, I'm really good at engineering.
Well,
so I can't figure out how the sniper rifle works.
It's like the Vanguard class was only shotguns and pistols.
Shotguns and pistols.
And that was my
If you were an
class.
adept, you were only good at pistols.
My class was Vanguard, and it was very frustrating to be like, especially towards the end of that game when they throw a lot of enemies at you, not to have like a assault rifle or something. But man, that's the only thing holding me up. I've been staring at that thing thinking, that's the one I didn't play. I jumped on that series with Oblivion, like I think pretty much everybody who plays on console, because it was the big 360 launch title kind of thing.
It was the first like RPG to come out on the 360.
And it was also like the big hardware showcase at the time. Like I remember looking at it and thinking, man, that's like one of the better looking games on the 360. It was a big open world, it was cool. But I was looking at that. But other than that, speaking of original Xbox games, we're playing a lot of this here Star Wars Republic Commando.
I have also been playing some Star Wars Republic Commando. In fact, I have finished Star Wars Republic Commando.
I have finished Star Wars Republic Commando also.
Maybe we should talk about that in a book club style format.
No, we shouldn't
for
do that.
approximately 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. I think it's funny you think we time this stuff. No.
Is this usually how it shakes out?
Yeah, it's just complete. All of our stuff is random. Star Wars Republic Commando is a fascinating video game.
It's a game of its time, but also has like really interesting ideas.
It's also of a very select time in Star Wars fandom.
It's a time in like console shooter fandom. It's a time in Star Wars fandom, and it's just those bridges connecting in a way. Like I joked last time about how there was a new metal music video on it, but that's the end credits song too. You don't hear the triumphant da 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 da. It's just like, now you're a clone. Now we're clones, or something like that, and you're just like,
oh my god! I watched. They have the behind the scenes stuff on the disc also. Some of that behind the scenes stuff brought me back to PlayStation Magazine or Electronic Gaming Magazine DVD discs that used to come in those. Remember when, I don't know how many video game magazines you bought. I bought a ton of them. Like, a lot of them came with the discs that you could put in. Most of the time they were DVDs. Sometimes you got the demo disc also. But, like, it was a lot of that kind of content of, like, here's a guy talking about how they made the sound for Republic Commando. Or here's the developers walking around their game development studio with toy guns, acting like those special forces to show you how the Republic Commando guys are going to act. That was a fun one. I don't know if you watched some of these videos. They were great.
I watched the Tamwara Morrison one.
Yeah, where he talks about, he had just come off of
Attack of the
Clones. Yeah. One thing I asked you before we started the show, and you had kind of gave me a heads up on, is this came out exactly 1 month before episode 3.
That's right.
So one of the biggest things I want to kind of get out, well, first of all, how did you generally feel about this video game?
I was very much like, okay, this seems like a standard by-the-number shooter for the first 2 sections of this game, that being Geonosis and the Republic starship that comes back from hyperspace. Once we got to Kashyyyk, I was like, I really like this game. If I enjoyed this game as much as I enjoyed the Kashyyyk stuff, this would be like probably one of my top 10 like Star Wars games.
Wow.
I think, because I really like the Kashyyyk stuff. I thought the level design, we'll delve into that more, but the level design was more open as opposed to like the tight corridors of the ship. It required you to take more advantage of your squad in unique situations. So the Kashyyyk stuff was great. Everything else was like, this is an alright shooter.
I'm glad we didn't talk about this ahead of time, because we've talked exactly nothing about this video game before we sat down today. I actually am the opposite.
Really?
I like the first. This game is divided into basically 3 sections.
It's basically
Geonosis,
3 mini campaigns.
Yes, it's Geonosis. It's the what's called Ghost Ship is the first mission, but it's the Republic starship that you kind of board and you deal with stuff on.
It's a missing ship that comes back from hyperspace.
Yeah. And then the Kashyyyk stuff. My favorite part of this game is actually that second campaign. The Kashyyyk stuff I was really on for the first half of, and then kind of got to the point that I felt like it got repetitive in the second half.
That's fair.
But one thing that you talked about also, like, I want to kind of put this in context with the Star Wars fandom. One of my biggest complaints with, like, Star Wars prequels is that when you get to, like, the War of the Clone Wars and the big, big part of that whole franchise is there's so much comedy that undercuts the fact that this is supposed to be a big war. Mm-hmm. My least favorite thing about those prequels is the battle droids. How are you ever supposed to take these guys seriously? As they're just blumbering idiots. In this game, battle droids are freaking combat troops. They're effective. You see why they would be dangerous, especially like the super battle droids or the droidicas.
I didn't hear one Roger in this entire game, I don't believe.
The only like quote unquote comedy you might see is you can like shoot their heads off and they'll like shoot around randomly and then fall over or something like that. Like there's not comedy really in this. The
only comedy that really comes from this game is Scorch saying, "I love destroying things." Is basically, that's the extent of the comedy in this.
Well, also, I don't know if you picked up on this, but I wrote this down in my notes. The squad is just the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
The whole squad is a one-to-one creation of the Ninja Turtles.
Leader, tech expert, tough guy,
Party dude,
yep.
Literally, they have Michelangelo. Scorch is Michelangelo. Fixer is Donatello.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other guy?
Sev.
Sev is Raphael. And then you play as Leonardo.
Makes sense, yeah.
It's the 100% Ninja Turtles.
It's a tried and true formula. You need everybody who specializes in different roles, even though you can kind of just say, anybody can open this door, and so, if Fixer's knocked out, then Sev will just do that thing, no problem. Or if Scorch is knocked out, then someone else will go and just set the charge. Or you can just go up there and hold the A button for 1 whole minute as your guys deal with the Geonosians.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Uh-huh.
But the one thing that I talked about, like trying to put this more in place also, as a shooter, this is very much of a time. But the biggest thing that I kind of can't forgive is there is zero feedback on striking enemies. And
yeah, you're right there.
At first I was like, well, of the time, that's kind of the way things were. But then I was like, no, this is actually post-Halo. If you remember, Halo 1 had when you shot elites and things like that, there was some stagger to them. There was some feedback of you hitting them. Here, the biggest issue I run into, especially with like the super battle droids, is they are just bullet sponges. And it can become kind of less impactful when you're just shooting a whole magazine clip into an enemy and he's not staggering at all. There is like some damage states that he will go into, but that's only if you go to actually try to trigger him. That's my, like, of the time, like, I was like, that still feels a little bit old with this being post-Halo. I want to say, like, I think this is post like Killzone too, isn't it?
I think so. 2005 is the last year before the 360 came out, so a lot of those big.
Yeah, so this is post Killzone. This is post multiple Medal of Honors and stuff like that. That
Time Splitters.
Time Splitters. That's like the biggest thing that, like, of the time that stood out to me was, man, there's no feedback when I strike these guys. But the other thing was, like, a Star Wars fan is this game plays it so seriously that it really, I imagine that if you played this to get hyped for the movie, going into the third movie, it would probably feel kind of like a massive, like, tone shift. Because think about this, and then around this time also, there was the original animated cartoon.
I was just about to bring up the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series, because by the time we're recording this, they had just put that on Disney Plus yesterday. And I watched some of it, and man, that show's kind of awesome. Is just like, if you want to see just buff Jedi taking out like hundreds of droids. There's a bit where Mace Windu takes down a super battle droid army with his fists, and it's awesome.
Also in that, okay, we and you both agree that like the Clone Wars show is good.
Yes.
But dude, I watched that show before episode 3 came out. I watched it as a kid when I was waiting between movies.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like in that show. Like battle droids are these endless waves. Clones are beating them down with the backs of their guns.
Yes.
There's special forces clone teams. Grievous is terrifying in that freaking show.
And he doesn't have his cough until Mace Windu like crushes his chest, and that's when you see him in episode 3, and he has the cough. It's because he fought Mace Windu, and seeing that stuff connect was awesome.
But also he was like this horror character that would just take Jedi out. Like there was a scene in one of the episodes in which they're trying to evacuate the Chancellor, and there's like 6 Jedi with them, and they're being hunted by Grievous as they're doing so, and he's like picking them off one by one by one, and it was such a cool build. Like that was my only connection. Like I didn't play Republic Commando when it came out, but that set up what I thought the Clone Wars were going to be like in the movie. And then when the movie came out, and this is not a prequel bashing. I have my issues with modern day Star Wars, but like there's some good stuff still at this time. I think I'd said my thing last time that we both agreed upon. For me, what I like about Star Wars is canon. Everything else is not. You know, I just pick and choose what I like and what I don't. But it's such a tone shift between this game and the animated show that's much more like it from what we got in the movies that it really, and it connects. Like in this game, it starts off with the Battle of Geonosis, which is the ending of episode 2, and then it ends with the Battle of Kashyyyk, beginning, which is what happens in episode 3. So they wanted this to connect, but the tones are just completely different.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. But
And-
it's at the same time, this was around the time of a lot of like Legends books and everything too. Like I believe correct me if I'm wrong, the Death Troopers books, the book with like zombie stormtroopers was around this time, sort of thing. So like Star Wars is not shy, at least in like Legends, of like doing like massive tone shifts from the movies. You have like stuff for kids. You have like more of the gritty Star Wars. There was going to be 1313, which was going to be an M-rated Star Wars game.
Which we only got, a little bit of gameplay footage.
We got a little bit of gameplay, and Jason Schreier's Blood, Sweat, and Pixels goes into the development of that game in his book.
That's one of the games that kind of got axed in the EA single-player axing that took place, correct? EA was saying
scrapped shortly after the Disney buyout. Like, I think it was whenever they announced Battlefront, they're like, hey, also we're killing 1313.
Which made no sense to me, because apparently that was going to be secretly a Boba Fett game.
Yeah, it was going to be a Boba Fett origin story.
Which, it never made any sense to me with the Boba Fett stuff, that he's a character that has, like, an ungodly amount of, like, fandom around him. And
he finally got his due recently. He got his due.
He did, but, like, it just kind of blows my mind that it took them that long to be like, hey, we need to probably lean into this Boba Fett guy. Like, Star Wars has never been subtle about trying to exploit things.
What?
And, like, weirdly enough, there was comics.
I say wearing a Baby Yoda t-shirt right now. I just realized.
But that was very I didn't even realize that until. But the fact that they didn't, like, super lay into him, it just blows my mind that, like, yeah, I don't know. But, that's the biggest things that stood out to me when I was playing this. I was like, this is such a, a tone shift from the movies at the time. And, like, me as a Dart fan, like, I understand as a kid I might have felt different. But I really, really liked this tone of how they treated, like, the Clone Wars. I liked how... one of my favorite things at the beginning is the intro sequence to this game is you as a child being raised up as a clone. And so it shows...
takes you through school, it takes you through the birthing pod, you meeting 4062 and 07.
And it shows you kind of being designated as a commando unit. Because, like, one of the things I always thought was fascinating is, like, until the Battle of Geonosis, none of these clones had actually ever, like, fought anybody. So like they show up and like this idea that you were designated commando from the get-go before. It's not like these guys earned the commando ranking or like the status. Like you were designated from pod to become a commando. So it's just kind of stuff like that I'm a sucker for, where it's like, okay, how does this work? Like, how does one become a commando this early on? Oh, he was designated as it from the get-go. I'm a sucker for little stuff like the fact that your weapon is modular.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, to use the sniper rifle, you're pulling parts of your rifle apart to attach other parts to make it a sniper
It's
rifle.
the same base, just different attachments that you're equipping to make it do different.
And that stuff it's cool. I really, really enjoyed all of that stuff. Like, as a fan of Star Wars, I really enjoyed... Like, there's not a single Jedi in this entire thing. There's a hologram of Yoda at the end, but that's the only part that that's ever a Jedi.
I was thinking that there would be something with Grievous at the end of this, because they tease him throughout the Kashyyyk stuff. So I was thinking, the final fight's going to be with Grievous, but there's not really a final boss to this game.
Which kind of goes back to why the Kashyyyk has issues. So let's kind of start off this game.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about the intro being the cool, showing you kind of growing up and becoming growing into full-grown clone status.
It sets the tone nicely for the game. The music, very, like, chant-heavy, as opposed to, like, the string and brass that you think of with typical Star Wars. And even when it's laying out, it's not like a crawl. It's like if you've seen Solo, they put like the blue text over like the same font as like when they say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. There's no crawl or triumphant fanfare in this game, because most Star Wars games at this time have the crawl. They have the traditional crawl with the fanfare.
Oh, I know. Old Republic did. Rogue Squadron did.
All the Jedi Knight games had it. This one feels like the more recent Star Wars story films, where it kind of lays a foundation for what's going on, but when it does that, it plays the Emperor theme, like with the low chants and everything. So I thought that was a really cool tone setter, because spoilers, the Emperor Palpatine's pulling the strings of both the clone army and the Separatist army the whole time. So like hearing that is like really cool foreshadowing, and I'm like, that's neat.
There's really cool stuff in this first part, especially because, first of all, like if you remember back, I kept thinking about the films compared to the games. And if you think about like the Battle of Geonosis in the movie, in episode 2, the clones show up in like the last 20 minutes of that film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very short that you see.
And at the end, the Jedi are mostly doing the work in the Colosseum, and that's who we mainly focus on.
Yeah, we don't focus on the clones. And me as a kid, I always in fiction liked the stories that were from like the Grunt's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I read, no surprise, I always talk about Warhammer. I like Warhammer, but I love the stories that are from the like Imperial Guard point of view. Because the Space Marine stuff is always the epic stuff, but the Guard guys are the ones who everything is a problem. You know, and so in Star Wars, I always loved the clones, troopers and stuff, because while the Jedi get all the glory, there's like millions of these guys fighting all this massive droid army. They're getting taken out. And one thing I really liked about this is, like, during this whole section on Geonosis, as we're moving throughout the battlefield, You're encountering like clone troops, and like they'll yell and stuff like, I don't know how to handle this, or this is our first time doing this, what are we doing? And they're getting taken out by droid attacks. The droids are actually competent in this thing. Like they don't look like they're a bunch of idiots.
They're a different color palette than they are in the films. Like in the films, they're like they're like brownish almost. Don't know how to describe it.
But
in this,
they're like a dirty white, like an off-white.
In here, they're like an white metal. They're much more metallic.
They look like they're steel. They look like steel.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that makes them look a lot more dangerous, because one of my favorite effects in this entire game is they really take into consideration the fact you're wearing a helmet. So you have your different like visor modes, obviously.
That's both one of the coolest and probably worst parts of this game, both the best and the worst, because when that HUD gets crowded with like text and stuff in your heads-up display, like when you're looking at a thing and like your commander's talking to you and all this stuff, and when you try to switch to a weapon you don't have ammo of, that thing can get crowded really fast to the point where you can't see. It's both cool from an immersion standpoint, but when it gets crowded, it really hurts the experience too.
I feel like the one thing I would have liked to see is the ability to take off certain stuff. Like, I don't want to have the text pop up if I switch to a weapon that doesn't have ammunition. I wouldn't want that kind of stuff, because it does, especially because ammunition's weird in this game.
It's, for an action game, it's surprisingly low. I understand not wanting a lot of the heavy weapon ammunition, but correct me if I'm wrong, I couldn't find a way, even if I had like heavy weapon ammunition but was out of everything else, to switch to the pistol automatically.
No, there is some
You can only
weird
switch to
stuff.
the pistol whenever you're out of every other ammo. And that pistol's not bad. Like, you can use it to squeeze out of a fight if you have to.
I talked about this on the holiday special, that first-person shooters are my favorite, probably my favorite genre. It just is. But I love the trope of always having limited pistol, right? Like Doom 2016 had it, Quake 4 had it, and it as somebody plays a lot of shooters and likes to play them on like higher difficulty, that's your mop-up weapon. When you have like in a situation like this, it would be really nice to switch to that when there's only like 3 little battle droids left, instead of wasting precious shots with my rifle. But there was no easy way to switch to that pistol when you had rifle ammunition. It was bound to the same key. And so I basically meleeed everything that I could. Like, if it was a fodder enemy, I just hit it with a melee.
There's no like recharge on that melee. You can just spam square up at a super battle droid when he's like low on health, and just like bring out your little knife hand and stab him over and over.
And there's times when the knife hand stuff is super cool, like when you hit like a Trandoshan with it and its blood comes up on your mask and then it wipes it away. It feels really visceral, but it takes that away every time you're standing next to a super battle droid going pat, 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 pat. You're doing like a 6-inch punch on them with the knife, and it would have been fixed, I think, with a pistol, just an easy switch to a pistol. This whole section on Geonosis is interesting. They don't fall into the trap of having you interact with any of the heroes of the franchise. Like, you're never like seeing Anakin.
You're not in the Coliseum. You're off doing what we don't see in Episode 2. You're
dealing with the droid ships. You're dealing with the Geonosian. You're hunting down the head of the Geonosian forces.
While most of the other clone armies are in their like vehicles doing with like the massive spider droids and everything, you're like on the ground sneaking into their facility trying to hunt down their general.
And there's a really cool sequence in which you like rappel down and you like ambush him in that control center that Dooku is sitting in at multiple points throughout the movie. Like, I like the idea of you being this assassination squad.
Yeah.
That's sent in to basically, take out high value targets. There is a lot of treatment of the clone commando team as how like real special forces operate, where you're not like pushing the front, you're handling the combined smaller actions that turn battles. Like, you're doing assassination, you're targeting high value targets. You're never just charging in the field fighting in the open battles. You're kind of on the fringes stabbing things in the back, basically.
This was the bit that made me think, man, if they ever made a sequel to this game, they could just make it Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, I thought the same thing.
Because you're like breaching doorways, you're like planning your strikes going through door to door. That stuff was awesome.
Like, if you, I don't know what I would make the argument, I think it would be a very viable game. I think it could make some serious money. But if you took that Rainbow Siege style of gameplay and combat, like, the leans and the very, like, angle-focused shooting in Rainbow Six Siege and, like, that kind of breach and clear kind of stuff, and you put it in this, I could see that being a huge thing, because there was moments in this game, like, when you do the correct breach and, like, they throw the frag in right when the door breaches, and you hit, you kill a bunch of battle droids or Genosians or whatever. It feels pretty good. Like, I naturally would always put myself like in the back where I would have an angle on the door when the door get blown open. And there's moments when you have everybody in positions and you're launching like attacks where like one guy's throwing grenades and there's an anti-armor position and another guy's in a turret. It feels really good. There was a part in the later part of the game where you're defending one of those forever consoles. And I had two guys in sniper positions, and they were picking guys off as they were coming down to attack me. And it felt good to look up in my, like, the upper part of my vision and see an enemy pop up and then get sniped right in the head. It felt cool. The problem is they lean into, like, timers a little bit too much in this thing.
Yeah.
And that can really kill, that kills some of the momentum. But this whole first section I really enjoyed. I think it was I imagine coming out of seeing episode 2 and then playing this, it would feel really cool. It would feel like this really cool expansion on that huge battle at the end.
This whole section is like an extended tutorial because you're getting your weapons piecemeal throughout the thing. Like, oh, here's the heavy weapon, and here's a spider droid. Figure it out.
Here's a sniper rifle.
As like enemies are like on the other side of a canyon going, use a sniper rifle, and you're like, all right, I know what this is for.
I did not like the Genosian warriors were fine, but the enemy that has the charge beam,
oh man,
I hate
when they show back up. I was like, why? I'm
Well,
like, I get it from a story reason. You want to have all your enemies like together, being like, oh, they're all out to kill you. But at the same time, I was like, I hate these guys so much.
Well, and the problem is they take so many damage. They delete you. They can delete you very quickly. But the problem is they take so much damage. It's not a situation where I couldn't target them quickly. It just, unless I hit them with the sniper rifle or something like that, 9 times out of 10, they did a lot of damage to me before my bullets did enough damage to them to kill them. And that's frustrating design. This whole section is kind of straightforward, that it's just like you're launching the assassination attempt on the Genosian Commando, which is eventually you succeed in, and then you're kind of taking down droid operation centers and ships to kind of keep the droids from evacuating completely and from their command ships.
This is the bit where you split up for the first time inside the core ship,
which has a really cool moment in which you're navigating the where all the docile super battle droids are. And
it's like, really tense there because if all of these guys wake up, I'm screwed.
The main character in this game also has got some pretty good personality. That section, when he's by himself, is when you see it the most, because he's able to kind of have fun little, especially in part 2 of this game. There's some really fun stuff where he's like like he gets spooked at one point. He goes, blast, and he kills the enemy, and they're like, what happened? And he goes, nothing, don't worry about it. Like, he's got some personality. I enjoy the characters. They are the Ninja Turtles. But yeah, this whole first section is pretty fun. I wouldn't say it's my favorite by any means, but it's good get your feet wet. I think it runs a little bit long, which is kind of my argument to all 3 of these sections, that there was always a point in which I was like, okay, I kind of get it.
We can throw in a boss fight and let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and the boss fight in this, I guess, is the siege of the command deck that you breach into here. And you take out like the turrets, and you take out, and there was some cool moments on the way there. But all 3 of these sections, I think they overstay their welcome maybe a level or 2 too long.
My favorite section during the Geonosis bit is actually on the core ship, whenever like you get to the point near the end where the super battle droids start waking up, and so you have to you could stay and fight them, but it was cool to just like outrun them and get to the next section, because it was like it was the first time in this game. There's another time coming up in Kashyyyk where you feel depowered. And those are, like, my favorite moments in this game. Because, like, all the other sections, like, oh, you're the best of the clone troopers. You're the absolute best. And when they subvert that and take that away from you and make you feel depowered, that feels great in this game.
It can feel really good to basically have to... What you're talking about, like, especially when you're by yourself, they do play up well the idea that, okay, you're alone now. you're no longer Mr. Billy Badass roaming around with your team, and especially surrounding you with the super battle droids. It really makes you feel small. Like when they start to wake up, that's when I was like spamming grenades, trying to take them out before they could come off of their connections. It's a really cool thing, and it reminds me of like there's a Star Trek episode which are on a board ship, and all the Borg are like in stasis or whatever, and that whole tension of like any second now all these guys could wake up and I'm done. But it's cool. It's a really really good intro sequence.
It's definitely a sci-fi trope, but it's one of my favorite sci-fi tropes of being like in enemy territory, and it's always really cool because it's always like, oh man, at any second this could all go south.
It's the Dracula thing.
Yeah.
Like any second he could wake up in this coffin and come bite me. But I'm going to try to sneak over there and stab him before he does it. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. Part 2, the ghost ship, is my favorite part of this entire game.
This is cool because when you see it all laid out, you're thinking, okay, we're going to start on Geonosis, then we're going to go up to the assault ship, and then we're going to Kashyyyk. You don't think that like it's going to be... When I said earlier that this was 3 separate campaigns, it's all like self-contained stories. Like this takes place, they say, 367 days later. It is a little over a year into the Clone Wars at this point. So like we jump forward a year, and the Clone Commanders have probably seen some action since then. There's probably going to be filled in the books that are...
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to read the books. Time caught up to me. I had multiple shows to do. But yeah, there is. I did look through them, and like, yeah, I mean, this franchise, they really. This goes back to my argument I'm gonna make at the end why this didn't get a sequel. But yeah, I like that. One of my favorite things about this mission is it's not connected to the overall story of Star Wars. It's just a mission that the Commandos are on. It doesn't affect the the end all be all story. This is a Commando mission. There's a slight connection with the fact this is your home ship. But like I really like the vibe of this mission because it starts out with you. It's kind of creepy because it's the whole thing of like, hey, this ship has been. It's the you ever see crap? What's the name of the movie? Event Horizon. You ever see Event Horizon?
That's one on my pile of shame.
Okay, in Event Horizon, it's the same concept. The ship goes off. It's an experimental, voyage, and then it disappears, and it pops back up in like 5 years. So it's been 5 years since the ship disappeared, and no one's on board when they first get there. This is the same kind of thing of like this ship went into hyperspace, then it came back, and no one seems to be there. And my only confusion is the ship's supposed to be gone for months, but when there's a portion of the game when the mission switches and like people are actively fighting on the ship, and it's like, have they been fighting for 3 months? Like when you first get there, it feels like it's been abandoned for a long time, but when it changes from the creepy vibe into the open battle on the ship. It's like, there's clone troopers here. Have you guys been duking it out for 3 months, or is this recent? That was the only confusion. But I really do dig when you're by yourself and you're trying to figure out what the heck happened, and you're not really engaging battle droids or anything. And then it's slavers. It's Trandoshan slavers.
I don't think you encounter an enemy for like a good little bit of this mission because it's like setting up... It reminded me of when we played Dead Space.
Yeah.
Going into like this ship and everything, and you don't... A little bit before you run into like your first enemy that you can shoot. And like... It lays the atmosphere out to you pretty quickly, and it's very effective.
Well, and also you have all the stuff where you're talking to your other guys on your team and you're breaking up, like you can't hear everything that's going on, and then
you're not like dead in the water. It's only like at specific moments where you're like, all right, this is what you're going to do, and he's like, what's that, boss? And you're like, ah.
Well, and also like I like the fact that when they start having contact before you, the confusion of like, oh crap, what's going on? Somebody get a hold of Scorch. I can't reach him. Like it's not like you lose contact with everybody at the same time. you lose contact with one guy, then you lose contact with another guy. And so it's that whole thing of like they're picking us off one by one.
And when you actually see '07 get knocked out because you're like a few floors above him and you see him get overwhelmed by Trinotians and knocked out.
Also, it's really cool the idea that the Trinotians are like
Trandoshans.
Trandoshans.
I wrote it down several times. Trandoshans.
They're with them being or organic enemy, it just makes it a little bit more creepy. If it was droids, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but they're a flesh and blood enemy that you're fighting.
It actually surprised me how like little in comparison to what I was thinking it was going to be, being droids the actual enemy of this game, because it's probably like you face droids probably like maybe a third of the time, because it's pretty much evenly split between Geonosians, Trandoshans, and the droid army.
Yeah,
it's pretty much 30% split across the board.
The Trandoshans also I like is they're a little bit more of a challenge to fight. They got shotguns.
They don't just stand there and take your bullets. They're like can like jump out of the way.
They'll dead rush you with blades.
They move behind cover.
They're
a lot smarter of an enemy.
They throw grenades.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of times where they'll ambush you and like attack you from above and throw grenades at you. They feel a lot better of an enemy to fight. I think that's why maybe they lean more on them than the battle droids, because they are a little bit more fun to fight. They remind me, I was thinking about the first Halo a lot when I was playing this, just because it was a similar time frame.
Yeah.
And they remind me a lot of like the differences between fighting like the grunts and such compared to fighting elites.
Yeah.
Like, fighting grunts and jackals are fine, but the elites were the key, like, really fun enemy to fight. They dive around and throw grenades at you and stuff.
They ragdoll real good when you punch them.
Oh, yeah. When you hit them with the rocket launcher, they go flying through the air going, I really, really enjoyed this sequence a lot. I like the fact that it's connected to, that, like, you're aware of these guys. You're aware that they're slavers. And then you're kind of learning throughout the mission that they're connected to the Separatists. Because at first, you don't even know that they're connected. You're just like, what are these guys doing here? And slowly but surely, you start to realize, like, hey, they have access to battle droids. They've called in a Separatist ship. Like, you're realizing slowly but surely that
there's factions of the galaxy actively rooting against the Republic.
Exactly, because that's something else the movies don't really nail down, but the shows do, is that it is a civil war, so it's like factions are picking sides, and not everybody picked the Republic. So, like, there's other factions that are siding with the Separatists, and that feels a lot more clearer in this game, especially towards the Kashyyyk level, where you have multiple factions all together forming the Separatist. You feel more like there's a connection there, like it's a united enemy that you're dealing with. There's just a lot of really good sequences in here. I like the fact that the shotgun is a ballistic weapon, and he makes a comment on how, like, that's a very old school kind of weapon. Like,
he's like, I haven't seen one of these, and
well, he's like, yeah, I didn't know anyone used ballistics anymore. And then you realize that it's like a blaster modified to be like a ballistic weapon. Like, so, like, stuff like that I thought was really cool.
There's a lot of good background stuff in this game that's not attached to the main story that just, like, flesh out the universe a bit more, and that's, like, my favorite stuff in Star Wars. How there's, like, that you forget how massive this universe actually is. Like, it feels, because of all the, even like the legends and the canon stuff, make this universe feel like alive and lived in, because of every little detail in this universe has an explanation.
You remember, like, okay, the original trilogy did a great job of referencing things and not telling you what they were. So, like, when they talk about the Clone Wars in the original trilogy, it's this massive thing that connects all these people, and it was a big thing, and they don't go and give you a bunch of information about it.
It's literally one line, like, you fought in the Clone Wars. I did, with your father.
Yeah.
That's it.
And when you hear that, you're like, holy crap, what's the Clone Wars? And
that says a lot of things, because they're like, wait a minute, clones are in this universe, and they fought a war? What?
it's the best kind of thing about that lore, and when you explain everything, the explanation is not always going to be as great as what you thought it was going to be. Like
the word world building gets overused, but it's definitely what it is here.
And Star Wars is not like everyone's like, oh, that's the downfall of Star Wars, and it's like, no, every franchise falls into that. Like if you were into Halo, okay, Gears of War, right? In the first Gears of War, there's conversations about like the Pendulum Wars and this, that, and the other, and emotion wars. And it's just things that everybody talks about, but you don't get into them, and it makes the world feel bigger. Mm-hmm. But then as the franchise goes along and you have to tell stories, it's always obvious to say, well, why don't we explain some of this stuff we talk about all the time? And why don't we show some of this stuff? In Warhammer, it's the Horse Heresy. Like, you talked about the Horse Heresy. It was this big event that took place. And now there's 75 books in the Horse Heresy series that explains every aspect of the Horse Heresy.
There's books in Mass Effect about the First Contact War.
First Contact War in Mass Effect.
There's comics that reference it, like involving the Elusive Man and his like backstory. And when you introduce a character with very minimal backstory, of course they're going to fill that in with expanded
and this
material.
goes back to like all fiction. Like,
yeah,
okay, there was a thing called the Silmarillion for Lord of the Rings, in which tells you about the entire history of Middle-earth. So, like, when you talk about the Second Age in Lord of the Rings, there's a whole book that tells you about the Second Age. So everybody falls into that. But it reminds you how cool it is when you just hint at stuff. And you just talk about little details, and it makes you want to learn more. And sometimes it's best to make you just want to learn more and not give it to you. This whole section is full of that kind of stuff, because it talks about, like, the Trandoshans dealing with Wookiees. They're like, yeah, they've been enslaving the Wookiees, and it helps connect that whole next mission.
It also connects to the when it say that they've been like enslaving the Wookiees. There's a bit of irony there, because at least in Legends, when the Empire took hold, they went right back to enslaving Wookiees.
Well, that's also in like modern continuity too, because doesn't Fallen Order technically fall in the modern continuity? Because Fallen Order talks about that.
Fallen Order is canon.
Yeah, so Fallen Order then it's canon that the Empire did that now. Then, because remember in Fallen Order, which everybody, if you like Star Wars, you should go play Fallen Order.
Please play Fallen Order. That game is amazing.
Respawn has yet to make a bad game. The whole thing with Fallen Order, there's a portion in which you go to Kashyyyk, and it's a really, really cool section, and the Empire enslaved the Wookiees then too.
One thing I will say about the Wookiees in this game, since we're getting close to the Kashyyyk section, the hair on the Wookiees in this game looks better than they do in Fallen Order, because Fallen Order, they look very slim, and in this game they look bulky. When you meet Tarful, he's like huge and imposing, and then when you meet the Wookiees in Fallen Order, they all look wet. Like, their hair is, like, very close to their skin. They look weird.
Yeah, I didn't like how the Wookiees looked in... they looked like how the original Chewbacca action figure looked. Where he was very tall and slim.
Like, the hair's painted on.
Yeah, he's not very big. Here, like, he's twice... All the Wookiees are twice the Commando size. Mm-hmm. So, like, the Commandos are bigger than the average clone troopers. And the Wookiees are, like, twice their size. So it was like, you feel like, man, that's a big freaking guy. Here it's, yeah, I wish they would have done that for Fallen Order. Mm-hmm. Made him a little bit more bulky. Mm-hmm. But this whole section ends with a big fight with the Separatists trying to take the ship. A lot of droids. A lot of that whole standing there holding A on stuff. And that's the biggest downfall of this game to me. I get that you're supposed to use your squad to go do that stuff. But the biggest problem is your squad is kind of inaccurate sometimes about, like, getting straight to a position. Like, they'll get shot by something, and instead of fighting their way to the position, they will basically, like, stop, fight a guy, and then go. And when they're low on health and you're trying to just destroy, like, there's a lot of these droid manufacturing machines that you gotta destroy. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I just need you to do that so they can stop freaking spawning super battle droids. It's easier just to walk up there and do it yourself.
I imagine on the PC, and maybe the future versions too, that the squad command stuff is easier to do. But on the original Xbox version is what we're playing. Holding down the A button for a couple of seconds to change your squad commands or even pull them off old commands takes way too long. So the squad command stuff is probably the weakest part of this game. Like, it's easy when it's on your HUD and you just hit the A button once for them to go. But if you're looking at an enemy and you're trying to bring up a squad command from like search and destroy to follow me to like secure this point, it could just lock onto that enemy. Or it just takes way too long for your squad to change orders or to like update them with new orders.
Especially when you get into the big arena fights on Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to move them to like go to that sniper position, and those like the game sets up spots where they want you to try to move your squad up. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, but I have to turn around and be like, hey, come back off that position. Go to this one now. And we talked about how the squad's supposed to have specialties, but I never felt like I was really assigning my specialist to a position.
It was just whoever's closest will go and do it. Like, even like, we have a demolitions guy, but even like the fixer will go and set the demolition charge.
Yeah, like, why isn't Scorch always the one who sets the explosives? Why isn't Fixer always the one who does the splicing? Or like,
what would be cool is if like he's down and someone else does it, it takes a little bit longer.
That's what I was about to say. Why isn't that like if I could put like the main guy does it, it's faster. Like if I put Scorch on a explosion, he should do it quite quicker than Fixer does. If I do a splicing thing, Fixer should do it faster than everybody else. If I put the other guy who names Sev,
if you put him on a sniper position,
he should hit everybody every time. Like, I want it to be like a little bit more specialty for each mission.
It felt like everybody had they had different personalities, but their specialties was kind of just as part of their character, not really part of like the game design itself.
And maybe that's just of the time. Maybe it's a lot harder to say, make sure that when you say go there, that guy goes, and what happens if he's down? What happens if he's stuck behind something? I can kind of get why they didn't do it, but looking at it now in modern day, it just feels a little bit less special.
This might also be a fact that they did have to make this game work on a console, so you're not going to have... You're not going to have as many buttons on a controller as you would a keyboard. So, like, their squad commands could just be like, okay, if I press 8, they're all going to know to do this, versus, like, holding down a button. So it might make the squad command stuff a little bit streamlined.
I think that my last, like, big thing on that whole conversation is the tutorials do not modify the buttons for the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One. So, like, they'll tell you, hit white button. Black button.
That's right.
Which do not exist on the modern day consoles. So it took me a little bit to figure out which ones those were. No, I think that is a true statement. I think like this game relies a little bit too much on like hold down A to do stuff. That's a big thing. Yeah, that's just kind of my feelings. Like I said, I feel like a modern console you can fix a lot of that stuff. And I wonder if these remakes are going to be a little bit better with that. So the Kashyyyk level is our kind of our last stop on this game. And this is where you said was your favorite part of the game.
At least the first like half of this was my favorite portion of the game by far.
I talked about it on the last level or the last campaign. Let's call them campaigns.
Yeah.
I really like when this game is not doing stuff that's like connected to the greater story.
Gotcha.
Like this first part, it's like, okay, we found out that the Separatists are participating in enslaving the Wookiees. So the Delta Squad is going to go in there and they're going to rescue the Wookiees. And it feels like this is like parts of the war that are not being explored. And then at the end it connects to the main story. But I really like this concept of like, okay, now Delta Squad is participating in a rescue mission to liberate these Wookiees that are being enslaved. And this whole part of the prison stuff was really cool. You get a little bit of like not a stealth sequence, but like a kind of like quiet approach up to the camp, and then you have the good prison breakout sequence where you're breaking Wookiees out of containments, and you're looking for Tarful, because the whole big thing is you're looking for Tarful to be your kind of the guy you're actually trying to like liberate from the Separatists and the Trandoshians in particular.
And the fact that this game came out before Revenge of the Sith, I imagine if you played this before and seeing Tarful and then wasting Revenge of the Sith and seeing him there would be really cool to be like, oh, I saved him in Republic Commando.
Yeah, so, it's like Delta Squad gets you out of that prison.
So some of my least favorite things Star Wars tends to do is rely on the stuff from the movies, because I think it makes the universe feel smaller. Like when all of a sudden, like, we're having a regular adventure and then Luke Skywalker shows up. Feels like, all right, like, what, do we need him here? I don't know, but
It's like how every time, and they don't do this in this game, which shows a lot to the ability to hold some restraint, but to go to Kashyyyk and not have Chewbacca there.
yeah, that I was kind of expecting him with Tarful, because Chewbacca is briefly in Revenge of the Sith. We see him fighting on Kashyyyk, but it didn't mind me so much seeing Tarful there because he is the leader of the Wookiee forces. Of course, that's the one they capture. Like, of course, that's who you're gonna have to break free.
It makes sense that he didn't bother me at all. He's like the only. It's the same thing with like the leader of the Genosians, where he's in the movie for a little bit, and so the fact that, like, of course he's the one you're trying to assassinate. Like, he's a big enough player in this. Delta Squad would probably be sent to take him out. It makes sense. These are characters that, like, them being involved doesn't make the universe feel small. It would be different if on the Genosian level you ran into Mace Windu. You ran into Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like, you saw them pass by looking for Count Dooku. Or on the Kashyyyk level, and Chewbacca's here too. Like, that would be making the universe feel small.
Way too much, but
They really do a good job of showing restraint. Like, they mention Mace Windu, and they mention Yoda, like, once. But, like, they're in context of, like there's a portion in which Yoda's the one who basically tells you, like, Delta Squad's pulling out at the end because there's a massive invasion of Kashyyyk to liberate the Wookiees.
all of it makes sense in the context of the story.
Yeah.
Like, it's not shoehorned in any way.
Because Delta Squad, while they're not major players in the grand Star Wars story, Delta Squad is still a specialty unit and would be taken in consideration in the grand scheme of some of these operations. Like, if Delta Squad is on Kashyyyk when the invasion of Kashyyyk happens to try to liberate the Wookiees, yes, Yoda might pull back Delta Squad. Like, it makes sense that he's there at that moment. It's different when, like, on Kashyyyk, you meet Tarful, and then out of the side of the story here comes Chewbacca, and Chewbacca fights with you for a little bit. And it's like, well, okay, crap, there's only 2 Wookiees in the entire Kashyyyk? It would be different there.
Yeah.
Here it's like, okay, it makes sense that they would mention Yoda here because he's heading up this whole operation. Like in Revenge of the Sith,
He's the one on Kashyyyk.
Yeah, he goes to Kashyyyk to help rescue the Wookiees. Those stuff makes Star Wars feel at home, and it feels like a complete story. I like how much restraint they show in this entire game.
At the beginning of Kashyyyk has my favorite bit in this entire game. That's when you hold off like a squad of Trandoshans, and you breach the door, and then the door seals behind you, and you realize you're in a trap, and the Trandoshans just appear on the trench above you and start shooting down. So you have to quickly, and it's knocking out your health incredibly fast. So you gotta like kind of take turns as you and your squad are both getting downs of trying to breach that door so you can escape. That's like my favorite bit in this game, because that was the moment where I was talking about earlier how my favorite bits in these games is feeling depowered. That was a section. Kashyyyk feels like the only section in this game where Delta Squad is at a disadvantage.
Yeah, because even on the Genosian mission, it's a massive battle, and Delta Squad is just kind of skirting the outskirts of it to do certain operations.
They're not in the main thrust of the fight.
No. In Ghost Ship, you feel like you're retaking the ship. So you feel like you're still taking the initiative. On Kashyyyk, doing the rescue operation, like, they make the Trandoshans feel like they are very, like, intelligent, and they have your number. Like, there's a portion of it in which they're berserking at you, and they're just charging you in waves. Like, they're able to take down the squad on the Ghost Ship when they were by themselves. Like, they capture Scorch. They nearly take down Fixel. They're capable enemies. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about Kashyyyk, that, like, you talk about that part where you get ambushed, but, like, also those portions on, like, when you're in the battle, there's one portion in which you talk to a Wookiee, he's like, hey, if you come over here, you can actually hit him from the side. So you can breach the main door, or you could follow that Wookiee and you'll basically trigger you'll turn the tables on their ambush. But there's a lot of times when they'll ambush you through doors and stuff like that. You feel like the enemy is actually capable of doing damage to Delta Squad on that whole mission. And at the end of Kashyyyk, when you're breaking off and like each guy is manning a turret, you're slowly losing resources as you're going to complete your objective. So you're feeling more and more vulnerable by the time you get to the end, because it's like, oh, hey man, I've just lost Fixer. He's got to go man the turret. So now we're down to just 3 of us. Now we're down to 2 of us. Now we're down to just me. And it feels like Delta Squad is at a disadvantage, which is the big thing you would want, is to make Delta Squad feel vulnerable, so it's more of a desperate fight. But yeah, man, Kashyyyk to me is great all the way up to the battle for Kashyyyk, and then there's a lot of cut and paste hallways. There's a lot of
put a guy on this thing counts down from 60 seconds to move to the next thing that counts down from 60 seconds. I understand.
Yeah, that gets very tedious.
Yeah,
to me, I think is the problem. I feel like okay, a minute is a long time to hold A.
Yeah. That's if you decide to do it rather than put like Scorch or Sev on it. But there's also something weird in this bit that I didn't know Star Wars had an F-bomb equivalent, because like whenever like the scout droids like get on, I believe it's your head, 3-8 will say, get the fear feck off. I didn't know Star Wars had an F-bomb equivalent.
I did not either. I see they use the word blast a lot. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, blast. Which I guess is like a shit equivalent. But yeah, I didn't know that was like the F-bomb equivalent.
That's what I think it imagine it is, because it reminded me a lot of What the Frack from Battlestar Galactica. How like every sci-fi universe has just like their weird alternate PG-13 F-bomb equivalent. Like,
my favorite thing is in Warhammer, it's like frag. But they have like a lot of like fake cursing in Warhammer. It's like, you know, by the Emperor and, you know, by the throne or whatever. Or throne is like a curse word or whatever. But
that's cool.
It makes no sense in a universe in which people are like flayed alive and there's all this like very mature content, and it's like, why did you feel the need to change the wording? Like, Slanesh is literally like a pretty screwed up freaking existence of like what happens in Warhammer to people who fall to chaos. And it's like, all of this stuff is okay, but we can't use the S word? You know? It's just weird. But there's I feel like the copy and paste, it just drags on. Same thing with the Genoshan level. I feel like it drags on just like 1 or 2 levels too long. Like those moments, like I like the portion you're blowing the bridge and there's like a misfire. I really, like stuff like that I liked, because that's very like practical military problems. Like every time you set off explosives, sometimes it don't set off, you know? Like when you set off that detonator and it just goes, and everyone's like, misfire. Like, who packed that thing? Which I love the fact no one ever owns up to packing the explosive. Like Scorch isn't like, it was me, I'm sorry. There's some really good stuff on that Kashyyyk level. I just feel like it does drag on a little bit. And you fight Grievous's guards.
That was a cool
times,
moment, yeah.
And they're fun to fight. They're actually pretty decent bosses.
They have, unlike a lot of the enemies in this game, they have a lot of mobility. So you're dealing with an enemy who can like jump and move around the battlefield. Just like Alan Wake, you do have a jump button in this game, but it's practically useless. I think I had to jump over like 2 obstacles this entire game. They could have made that button. They could have taken out the jump, like add a ramp in a couple places, and then made that the button to issue squad commands.
Yeah, and also like there's a crouch button, and I know
on the left control stick.
I know there's a lot of portions in which you crouch under stuff, but like I just question why that needed a dedicated button. I feel like the jump was unnecessary. It's not like it's a game where you can like jump like in Halo where you're dodging enemy fire with it. Like
there's no like verticality to combat. It's all like the combat's more like
it's on the
horizontal. It's spread out. Versus
you are really moving right to left to shoot. It's very unoften that you're actually aiming up, and you hardly ever aim down.
There's some bits where you run into like literal monster closets. Like there's a bit where a bunch of Trandoshans just break out of a wall. And I went to that room to see what was in that room. There's no entryway into that room at all. So I was like, this is a literal monster closet. Like you would see in, like, Doom or something.
Yeah, well, even in Doom, like, usually it connects to something. But, yeah, it's a lot of that where, like, a wall will break. And it's like, how did you get back there? Like, did you build yourself into the wall?
They won't see this coming.
There was a lot of that in Call of Duty 2 on the Xbox 360. I beat that thing on Veteran. And if you play the Call of Duty games on Veteran, they're very frustrating, especially those early ones, because...
If you pop your head off cover, you instantly go red.
Yeah, but also, like, there's a lot of portions in which you have to get past the line to stop the spawn of enemies. So it's not like you can kill enemies from a distance and, you know, walk your way up that way. You have to get past the line to stop the spawning of enemies. And you'll get there, and there's a lot of buildings that have, like, hallways with no doors in them. And that's just where they hide the pop-in of the spawns. And when you play it on Veteran, there's a lot of times where you're moving up slowly because you're trying to get to that line. And you'll see a lot of those, like, here's a room with no other entries or doors.
Yeah.
And I just saw 20 Germans come charging out of it. It's like, what was y'all doing in that room? But there's a lot of that in this. And that's just kind of the time.
Yeah.
There's a game called Project Snowblind that I played a lot of at this time that was on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox.
I know the box art. I don't know the game. I can just picture
I've
it.
beaten that game like 10 times. I loved that game for some reason when it came out. It was around the time Halo 2 came out. And it was like a cyberpunk shooter in which you had a ton of abilities. But like, it's actually, I wonder if that game holds up because, like, I remember being really taken back by the fact like every gun in that game has an alternate fire. There's like 7 grenade types.
Okay.
There's like like in this game has like multiple grenade types, but like in that one there was like a grenade that you threw out that like created a shield. There was a grenade that was like a little machine that would like charge around and go shoot people for you. Like that game is fascinating. I would love to do that game for this show because I have such a connection to it, but no one would ever give a damn.
No.
No one cares about Project Snowblind.
To bring this back, you just reminded me that this game has multiple grenades because I want to bring up that stun grenade is useless. It hurts me more because a lot of the time you're fighting droids that they have no effect on. And most of the time, it doesn't seem to hurt the other guys at all, but I'm blinding me and my own squad more than I'm hurting the enemy. Like
because, like, the throw of it, like, it doesn't, when it goes off, it seems like it doesn't trigger the blinding effect on any enemy that's in front of the grenade. So, but the problem is the enemies almost always charge you in this game. Mm-hmm. So, like, you would throw it, and you might catch one of the 6 guys blind, but everyone else was in front of the grenade and didn't get blinded.
So the guy who's getting blinded is the guy who's causing you the least amount of trouble anyway, because he's in the back while everyone else is coming up to you with their little curved swords and chopping at you.
But to use it effectively, you would have to throw it just right in front of you to get the bulk of the people in front of the grenade, which in turn blinds you. The only really, like, in my opinion, decent grenades is the EMP grenade.
And the EMP grenade is great. I like the instant, the green one that detonates instantly.
It's like an impact grenade.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about was those the pickup weapons. You know, I talked about the shotgun, but like those weapons are weird. Like there's like the Genoshan weapon that's like a beam weapon. Mm-hmm. You get a rocket launcher very sparingly.
The Trandoshan assault rifle was terrible. That does no damage. I was thinking, this thing's gonna pack a punch. No, it does not. The one you get from the mercenary like not the bosses, but like the sub boss enemies who you encounter occasionally. The LMG you get, that thing's great.
That thing will buzz through people, but I really just wanted the shotgun.
The shotgun's great, yeah. I always had that on the offhand. The Wookiee Blaster plays a lot differently than any of the Wookiee Blasters in any other game I played, because usually when you hold it, it bursts out into multiple, it becomes like a AoE weapon.
Yeah.
Well, this just charges the beam so I don't know if there's like a canonical way to like charge it or something, but just playing different Star Wars games and having the Wookiee Blaster be different threw me up for a loop and going, I know exactly what this does. Oh, no, I don't want to know what it does.
I think it's in Battlefront is when it's like a wave. Like it goes out in multiple directions.
Yeah, it's a wave in Battlefront and it's a wave in the Jedi Knight series.
Okay.
And
but
maybe
like,
Dark Forces as well.
I'm trying to think in the movie. In the movie, it just looks like it's a straight up regular laser.
Just looks like a bolt. Because even when Han uses it in Force Awakens and like knocks back the dude, it's just like a single bolt. So,
yeah, I wish it was a little bit more unique because, like, in the movies, it's just considered like a really powerful blaster rifle, and it's like, well, why is the part of it being a crossbow then? Like, it's not actually projecting anything. But yeah, that one I wish was a little bit cooler because it looks kind of cool because it has the ammo counter on there and everything. But
all of the weapons. It does the Dead Space thing of like they all exist on the weapon itself. It's not a part of the HUD in any way.
There was a very Halo thing too, because if you remember, like Halo Combat, the first Halo, like the assault rifle had the ammo counter on there.
Yeah.
The like weapons like the Needler.
The Needler had like a visual indicator where you could see when it was low.
I like that stuff. Yeah, to be honest with you, I'd rather have a visual indicator on my gun.
More of that.
Yeah, like I like that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more fun than just looking at a right hand corner, and that would have put even more stuff on your HUD.
Oh man.
When you're in close combat and you keep getting the stuff splattered on you, the thing that comes across and wipes it away is really, really cool, but sometimes it's like a half a second too slow. So like you want it to be done faster than it is. Like I wish it was a little bit quicker sometimes.
Yeah.
But the mission kind of ends in a kind of a melodramatic way. Like you just put everybody on turrets and you destroy a droid ship. Grievous is seen through a window one time, and not once do you fight him or anything. There's no real boss fight. They throw like a spider droid at you and stuff, but nothing serious.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like it's a little bit like clearly I think they thought they were getting a sequel because
that sounds about right. Like Imperial Commando was like in the concept art phase at one point, so they had considered it at one point.
But like they even do like the whole thing where like Sev gets captured, you have to pull out without him, and there's no closure at all on what happened to him.
It's like we have to go back, and they're like, no, that orders from above. You have to leave him behind, stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I think that's a little weird that there's like zero closure on what happened there.
Yeah, because then if there's a rescue mission with Sev, he could be like, you left me behind. That's not what we do. Stuff like that is a cliche in some of these like war style stories, but it's something I would have liked to see play out. But
you could have done it where like you go back and rescue him after the Empire is taken over. So maybe you're working for the Empire and he's not aware that the Empire is taken over. Like there's cool stuff you could do, but I wish that there was a little bit more there. It feels very melodramatic.
Oh yeah, that would be cool if you ran into him and his inhibitor chip was like removed by somebody or something, so that he's like still a clone at heart and he wasn't switched over to the Empire. Oh,
like that, you could do something. Cool. Like yeah, you're working for the Empire now.
Man,
the fact that this is before the release of Episode 3 means there was zero Order 66 stuff. I was kind of hoping for something, just to reference it, but I get why they didn't, because that's supposed to be a massive, moment in the movie, and it would be kind of a spoiler to even talk about it.
If you want to talk spoilers for Episode 3, the Lego Star Wars game came out before Episode 3, and that just was like, here's Episodes 1, 2, and 3, so you could just play the last battle before you even see the movie.
Also, the Star Wars Episode 3 video game
that came out before, right?
It was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the movie, and you could just straight up play the game.
Scenes from the movie.
Well, that was the thing that happened a lot back then. They would do a lot of those movie tie-in games, and they would come out 2 months before the movie, and it's like, well, okay, crap, I guess I don't need to see the movie to know what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a very bad game. I don't know if you played
the Episode 3 game.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's something about that game. I played more of the versus mode than I did anything else. I like that game actually.
Oh no, man, I didn't like it that much. Man, it was okay.
I liked it.
It was no Battlefront 2.
Yeah, that's few things are Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2 is a great game, and also has a pretty good story mode.
Yeah,
because you play as the entire 501st Legion, and it talks about you turning from the clone army into the Imperial army. There was a civil war on Commando at one point. There's cool stuff in that freaking game.
So Sounds like you should go and play that as like a sequel to this because it covers a lot of the story stuff that you would want to see.
Yeah, I think, and then it gets deep into some like, I don't know if it's canon anymore, but stuff that was canon at the time that was like Imperial behind the scenes stuff, you know. There's a lot of cool stuff. I love the games, like, I guess in closing, like, if you're done with this, because this sets up basically the Battle of Kashyyyk in the third movie, which is going to be the big...
Which leads to Order 66, right immediately after.
But this game is a pretty good bridge between the two. People who maybe are looking at buying this on Switch or PlayStation 4 that gets released tomorrow, what do you think? You think they should pick it up?
I do think so. If you're a Star Wars fan, I would definitely... This game's definitely worth checking out, especially if you were a fan of shooters around this time, because it's definitely one of those. It's a good one of those.
Remember what time it came out, I think would be the big thing I would remind you. But I think as a Star Wars fan, there's enough here to grasp onto that makes it worth your time. Because it doesn't kind of do a good job of like engrossing you in this whole world and making you feel like you're a part of the Republic Army, and you know, I felt pretty good about this whole thing.
They're not making Star Wars games like this anymore. So if you can go and just, when it's on sale, grab it, give it a chance, and like they're doing a good job of releasing all that like old legacy Star Wars content. There's rumors of them remastering Knights of the Old Republic, which is a different Star Wars game than what's coming out now. They did Episode 1 Racer. You can buy Jedi Knight and Jedi Academy on Switch, which are two of my favorite Star Wars games that play completely different than stuff coming out now. They're just... It's very symbolic of a time of when the Star Wars games were coming out in droves, being like different genres and everything. So
there was a lot of willingness to take a chance on a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Where, you know, in comparison, I played Squadrons recently, Star Wars Squadrons. And that game is good, but it's not like, you know, everyone wanted like another X-Wing or another TIE Fighter.
It's not that.
It's not that. But like, it's insane to think that there was a time in which you were getting Star Wars games. Like, I don't know if you've played TIE Fighter recently, but that game is a straight-up flight sim in the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
Republic Commando is kind of a little bit more gritty shooter in the Star Wars universe.
You had vehicle combat games. You had a terrible fighting game on the PlayStation 1.
You had Knights of the Old Republic, which is a massive RPG set a million years before the freaking movies. Like, you know, like... I know it's not a million years, but...
4,000.
But, yeah. But I had to correct myself because somebody was typing an email. But the fact that those games existed, and I just don't foresee us getting those anymore. You know,
well, it sounds like...
I want them. I hope they do.
Well, those gates seem to be opening up. We know Ubisoft now is developing like an open-world Star Wars game. It seems like the EA deal is kind of finished because... they rebranded as Lucasfilm Games now, versus LucasArts. They kind of came back as Lucasfilm Games, and so it seems like we're going in the next few years we're going to possibly see some new types of Star Wars games in the future.
My fear with the Ubisoft game, because I will say, I'm not going to say it's all been bad, because Fallen Order came out 2 years ago. I mean,
yeah,
Fallen Order is an amazing Star Wars game and very much worth your time. But Squadrons is not bad. I'm hoping that they do take some more risks. And I would say Republic Commando is a game that maybe a sequel could happen.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if this, I imagine if this does well, it might signal to people, hey, people want a more tactics-focused first-person shooter set during the prequel era.
Or and even, like, you could even do one set during... Like, they really don't want to they don't seem to be leaning into, like, the Clone Wars era as much anymore. They really like leaning into this post... Episode 6, pre-Episode 7 kind of war that they really like leaning into. I know Squadrons takes place in that time.
Or even the High Republic. That seems to be something they're fleshing out more recently.
Yeah, I could see that maybe being where your next. I don't know if you'll get another Knights of the Old Republic, but I could see you getting a High Republic RPG. Like I could see that being a. I don't know if you'll ever get a Knights of the Old Republic kind of sequel, but I could see you getting a High Republic spiritual sequel kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I could see you getting a spiritual sequel of Republic Commando. It might not be Delta Squad, and it might not pick up right after the events of Republic Commando, but I could see you getting a squad-based shooter similar to it. But here's hoping. Here's hoping for more Star Wars games like this. I enjoyed this. I'm glad we've played it. It's been on my pile of to play list for a long time.
It's worth noting that also there's a multiplayer mode in this game that we didn't check out. I wonder what that is.
I tried to play online. I went on there and clicked it just to see. Obviously, the servers don't exist anymore.
What?
And then I just booted up a mission. There's no bots or anything you can play with that I could tell, but I did run around it. It seemed like a pretty decent little multiplayer. Like they had some customization options on there where you could like change your helmet and your backpack, and
that's cool.
You could actually make your guy look kind of cool. You could change what kind of class he was so basically you could pick which one of the commandos you wanted him to look like. And you could play as a Trandoshan also. It seemed fun. I ran around the map for a little bit, just shooting and throwing stuff just to see what it was like, and it reminded me very much of like a basic death match. Like I don't know like how
here's a map siphoned off from the campaign.
Yeah, it was okay.
Here's your facility knockoff.
I think it had 8 maps, which ain't bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, ain't bad. Yeah, fine. I wish if the servers were up, maybe we would have tried something, but nah. I understand also not keeping the Republic Commando servers.
Wasn't it like a few years ago there was still people on like the Halo 2 like servers keeping it live? Like we're just gonna keep this match going for all eternity.
The Halo 2 community kept the original Xbox servers up because Halo 2 was a thing that kept going for a long time. And like as a guy who played a lot of Halo 2 when it was out, man, like Halo 2 had a ton of maps and it was a great freaking multiplayer. It made less sense at first because there was the Master Chief Collection where you could play Halo 2 maps, but then that Master Chief Collection was so buggy and had issues and this, that, and the other, and still to this day seems to have issues.
Much less so,
but it's still not a perfect thing. It does make sense, but yeah, they kept that thing rolling for years just because of Halo 2. And I want to say Rainbow Six 3, which recently just got a new map.
3?
Rainbow Six 3 just got a new official map not long ago, like maybe 2-3 months ago.
That's crazy.
Rainbow Six 3, original Xbox release, PC release, Rainbow Six 3 still got an original
Was
map.
someone working on that from home and just release it? Because that'd be great. Like he's like, I got nothing else to do, so I made a Rainbow Six 3 map.
Rainbow Six 3 is a completely different kind of game than like what Rainbow Six became. Because like after Rainbow Six 3 is when you got into the Rainbow Six Vegas franchise, which was the third person, a lot more cover shooter kind of stuff. And then Siege happened. So I think that community that still likes Rainbow Six 3 likes it because it's a very slow pace. It's more in line with what the you ever played the SWAT franchise?
No.
Where it's a very slow, punishing tactical shooter where like one guy in a bad spot can take out your whole squad. Like it's very slow pace, plan out your route, that kind of stuff. So that franchise, I think that game still was active because of that. But yeah, like the whole Vegas Siege kind of stuff ruined. They're never going back to that kind of Rainbow Six.
Yeah, there was a kind of shift in what that was.
Vegas was the start of it, and then Siege became the monster in which it is today. Yeah. I like both of those series. I like Vegas and I like Siege, so I can't complain. But I thought it was fascinating a couple of months ago to get a new official map for Rainbow Six 3.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I love to see. All in all, I think we really enjoyed this game. I really liked it. This was a fun selection.
I'm glad we did this in one session because I don't know if there would have been enough here to split up into 2 parts.
Yeah,
But,
I don't think
yeah,
it was.
so-
But I think this was a really
I'm
fun.
really glad we did this.
Now comes the fun part, which we talk about our next game.
Ooh.
We already announced it last time, but Resident Evil 7.
I had a friend text me telling me that he's too scared to play Resident Evil 7,
I
so he might
asked-
not play along with us this time.
I talked to my friend Zach, who was on the last show, and he also said he ain't playing along with us. I remember success. But we're doing this because we're going to do this and get this knocked out of the way so it can be ready by the time Resident Evil 8 comes out, which will be in, about 4 weeks? Something around there. We'll be around
Early
the time.
May, provided it doesn't get delayed, because 2021 seems to be like a year of delays for some reason. I don't know why. Why are they delaying all these games all of a
I
sudden?
don't know.
I don't know.
But I am excited about Resident Evil 8. I really like the Resident Evil franchise. Resident Evil 4 is probably my favorite game of all time. If not, it's close. Those 2 Resident Evil remakes are amazing. I even played that Resident Evil multiplayer mode that came with Resident Evil 3. That was a pretty fun little multiplayer mode that no one talks about. It's like one person plays as the mastermind and the other people play as survivors. So he can put things in your way as you progress through the level.
What was it Killing Floor that had a similar?
It's similar.
Okay.
It's similar. But it was, when done right, I only played like a little bit of it because by the time I got into it, people were either very, very good at it or very, very bad. But like the idea of playing the mastermind and like trying to use your points to put zombies in the right places, and then each mastermind had like a boss character that could spawn. So it could be like Mr. X or Nemesis.
Oh, that's
or,
fun.
Whatever. It was a really good, and the funnest part about it was, the most fun part about it, was there was these security cameras, which is how the mastermind spots you, because you're in an umbrella test. So like you would see the camera move, and you would know that that's where the player using the camera to watch you, and they're taunting you throughout the test and stuff, and you're screaming back at the mastermind because you're aware you're in the test. It's a cool concept. I really think
That is nice. That sounds really
it's
cool.
a lot more fun than I think people gave credit to.
Mm-hmm.
But I love those, and I played a lot of the originals, and then that franchise went off the rails with 6. It started to go off the rails with 5 for me, but I stuck it out for 5. But then 6, I never finished 6. I think I finished Leon's campaign, but I never finished the other ones.
I've only played 2 of the Resident Evil games. I played 4 first, absolutely loved it. So then recently, over the past couple years, I went back and played Resident Evil 1.
Yeah, you've told me that you did a big old deep dive into 1.
I did a deep dive. A long time ago, I won't give the name here because no one should seek it out, but I had a YouTube channel for a while where the concept was kind of similar to this, where I would play games I never played before that were very like big games that everyone should play. Resident Evil 1 being one of the touchstones. So I played like the GameCube remake, and I played the entire game and gave my thoughts at the beginning, middle, and end of that game. So I did a huge deep dive on Resident Evil 1. So I'm kind of interested to play a game that's kind of like Resident Evil 1 in kind of setup, because this seems like a soft reboot of the series in a way.
Which is actually why I've never played it before, because I consider myself a fan of I've played one of the mainline games. I've played all the way up through 6, and I've played a couple of the spin-offs. So when 7 came out, watching the trailer and stuff, I was like, this isn't Resident Evil. I like the characters of Resident Evil. I like Leon, I like Jill. I like the weird craziness, because like the secret of Resident Evil is it's not really even a zombie game. Like, the true massive like enemies that are like the real dangers in Resident Evil are like weird plant monsters and guys in top hats that chase you and stuff like that.
A dude in sunglasses.
Yeah, Wesker who freaking Wesker. Resident Evil gets anime super quick, and like that's like the true, like even Resident Evil 4. Everybody remembers the village part of Resident Evil 4, but like There's a whole castle section in which you're dealing with monster knights. There's a war zone section in Resident Evil 4.
Just walk into a battleground near the end of that game.
Fight a commando. Like, that game is so much more than a zombie game. But, like, when I saw 7, I was like, this is not what I want from Resident Evil, you know? But with 8, I was like, okay, this is where, like, yeah, everybody makes the meme about the tall lady. But also, I was like, this is where the franchise is going. If I want to continue to play through these, I need to see, I guess I need to play 7. I guess I'm not going to, the next one's not going to, I thought 7 was honestly going to be like a one-off, and then the next one would be Leon again or something.
And as someone who's like a casual observer of this series, who's played 2 of the game and really liked one of the games, loved one of the games, 8 seems like it's trying to bring like the 7 formula back into like the core story, because it looks like Chris, is that right? Chris Redfield seems to be a prominent figure in 8.
Someone who pitched the idea, because I've made this statement to people before who knows I like Resident Evil. Apparently in 7, this is not a spoiler really, but apparently 7 does tie into the Resident Evil world more than we think it does. I won't get deep into that. I have one slight thing that was spoiled for me, but that's just because somebody was like pitching me on the game.
It's one of those things that like it's a spoiler that to entice you, not to like ruin your experience.
But I'm not gonna say it here.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But that was the thing with 8. I will say from the trailer we do see Chris, and it looks like this is where the franchise is going. Our protagonist Ethan seems to be the next big protagonist for this franchise. So I like this franchise a lot. So hey, let's give Ethan a shot.
Let's give Ethan a shot.
I famously am not a Chris guy. I'm a Leon and a Jill guy. So let's see if Ethan can join the trinity of of cool characters in Resident Evil. So you got some prep stuff for us.
I got some prep. So a preliminary build of Resident Evil 7 was built way back in 2013, containing similar gameplay to the action-heavy Resident Evil 6.
Oh my god.
That was scrapped. The dev team decided to scale back to the series' roots after looking at this going, this doesn't look great. And they decided to scale it back to, they're like, what made 1 so scary? It was in a single location. So let's scale it back, and taking a lot of inspiration from The Evil Dead, decided to place it in one location. And so they built a brand new engine for this game that's still used today, RE engine, which is, I believe, used in the new Monster Hunter that just came out. It's a very good engine, very capable, 60 FPS on last-gen consoles now.
Both of the remakes were
RE engine,
and I can tell you both of those remakes are freaking gorgeous. There was moments in RE2 remake in which like Claire and Leon are talking in the rain, or you're dealing with different environments that are just like, and the character faces and character models that the RE engine can do are beautiful. Like people do a lot of like the screenshots of those games because, dude, like none of those characters have ever looked as good as they do in that RE engine. Like there's some really cool stuff.
I've seen screenshots of like 2 and 3, and those games just look beautiful.
Oh yeah.
A separate team was created in 2015 to handle the development of the VR version of the game,
which is too scary for me, so I ain't gonna play the VR version.
The first time I've heard of like one of the games that really like brought up VR was like Alien Isolation, and seeing like people play that in VR, I'm like, no, that's one game I never finished because it goes on for way too long, and a horror game needs to be 10 hours is a good length for a horror game. Any more than that, I'm just like constantly is emotionally draining. Is it at that point?
I want to say this is like a 10-hour game.
This is a 10-hour game.
Yeah, so this is not a super long game. We're gonna break it up into 2 parts, but like you're right. Dragging on horror games it just kills you after a while because it'll literally make you feel like you always need the release, right? Like a good horror game has the big action moments to give you release, so you don't feel on edge all the time. I'll go use the remakes because that's the games the most recent Resident Evil games I played, they do a good job of giving you some cooldown moments in between. Like, okay, Mr. X doesn't chase you every single time. Nemesis isn't always on your butt every single moment. Because if he was, you would just constantly be freaked out and you would never be able to take a breath.
There's a point in, like, Alien Isolation of how that game was draining. There's a point where, like, for most of the game, the alien can just sneak up on you and kill you at any moment, which is very tense. But after, like, 8 or 9 hours, you're like, okay, how much longer do we got? Oh, I'm only, like, halfway done.
Yeah, that's like a 20-hour game. It's too long for what it was.
Yeah, it's a great game, but everyone should check out. But yeah,
it's a great game to play. It's not a game that I would say you have to finish.
Exactly.
Like, it looks beautiful and it fits that ward beautifully, but I don't think you would have to finish Alien Isolation.
Absolutely. This is the first game in the series to be written by a Western developer, Richard Peyruis, and Peyruis was one of the narrative designers of Spec Ops: The Line, a game heavily praised for its narrative. I don't know if we'll get into, like, self-reflection, criticism of the military, and, like, turning the camera back on you, the player, in this type of game. But
I will tell you, if there's ever a time, Zach would be back for the Spec Ops: The Line show. One day, we are going to play Spec Ops: The Line.
I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to take on Spec Ops: The Line.
I am fascinated. This is off topic, but the 6 Days in Fallujah is finally getting released. Are you aware of that game?
I knew of that game, like, when it was in its original development. I've seen some stuff on it, so
I wonder.
Yeah,
I am fascinated to see what that video game comes out to be, because I remember reading, like, design docs and stuff of that game, and it was, in my opinion, it was too soon when that game first came out. Like, it was very close to the actual events of Fallujah. I am fascinating and to see what that game comes out to be. But, like, then you match that up next to, like, a Spec Ops: The Line, which does not actually reference any real-life event, but it does reference a lot of things that are very topical at that time. And, boy, that's a hard-hitting freaking video game.
And yeah, he was brought on to do the handling of the story for Resident Evil 7.
I do know that Resident Evil 7's cast is a lot smaller than the normal Resident Evil games.
It's one campaign as opposed to, like, the 6 or 7.
There is two
6.
like bonus campaigns that are DLC.
There's a lot of DLC for this game.
Yeah, which are all single player DLC. I believe one of them directly ties into the events of Resident Evil 8.
That might be the free Chris one they have.
Yes. So I believe that is a tie-in to the Resident Evil 8 story. You are also playing as the character you will be playing as in Resident Evil 8, which is Ethan.
This game released for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One in January 2017. Resident Evil 7 in VR launched exclusive to the PSVR for 1 year. This game won the game won a few awards, mostly in sound design and VR design, because it was like, I remember when this came out for VR, it was like the game everyone should check out in VR. Like, people were like, this game is amazing, it's playable from beginning to end, because usually when a game came with VR support, it was like, here's a few VR levels, and here's the campaign, you can't do it. Resident Evil 7 was like the first one I remember coming out that's like, oh, we have the entire campaign here. And fun fact, this game's full title is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Biohazard is the name of Resident Evil 7 in Japan. So in Japan, this game is called Biohazard 7 Resident Evil.
And if you look at it on the Xbox store, it's Biohazard is the main wording. Mm-hmm. And that's why it made me think it was going to be a one-off. Because when it came out, it was Biohazard Resident Evil 7. And I was like, okay, this is probably going to be a weird side story. And then Resident Evil 8 will be like the next Resident Evil game. But I think, one, the success of Resident Evil 7 made it almost impossible to ignore. But second, I do think that there is enough connections here that it's going to be really fascinating for me, because I'm going to be looking at it from a different point of view than somebody who's just playing it. I'm playing it as a guy who almost was hesitant to play it. It's a different kind of scary. from what I've seen.
If you put a horror game in first person, it instantly becomes a lot more terrifying.
That's another reason why I didn't play it, because I was like, this is a first person Resident Evil game.
Nope. No, thank you.
I did turn this on, just to take a look at some stuff before we came on here. I did not progress hardly at all in the game. I got the achievement for walking forward.
Good job. You did it.
It is a beautiful game. I did turn off right away the sway. So there is a motion sway to the camera.
Oh, thank you for the heads up.
Yeah, there is a sway off. It's very easy to turn off. The game tells you how to turn it off right from the get-go. But I turned it off because I watched the trailers and I watched gameplay footage, and that really made me kind of hesitant to play it because
you get really bad motion sickness. Is that right? I get
motion sickness, and I was concerned that was going to throw me off because, especially in a game when you're already stressed and you're kind of focusing very intently on it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to focus very intently and then deal with the motion sway. So you can turn it off. The game gives you the option right from the get-go. You walk like 5 steps forward, and it's like, hey, do you want to turn off the motion sway? And you can shut it off if you want to.
Cool.
I shut it off right from the get-go. It seems to play fine. It also, my initial impression was it's a little bit more Resident Evil because the first thing you had to do is find yourself something to cut a gate open. It's like, find these clamps. It's like, okay, this is Resident Evil. But yeah, this is going to be really fascinating, and I'm excited to play it right before 8, which I hope 8 is more than the meme.
I'm sure it will be. I heard really good things about the demo. I haven't played it. I heard there's a combat demo, I think, coming out this month, because the first one had no combat. The second demo I heard, has some combat in it.
The first demo was really the one I watched, which is like almost a prequel. It's not going to be in the actual game. It did a great job of the stuff that they did really well in the remake of 2 and 3, because you hear the tall lady moving throughout the house.
I don't even want to try to pronounce her.
I can't pronounce her name. She's the tall lady.
Tall lady.
Who's apparently canonically 9 feet tall. But you hear her, and it does a great job. They did really well job in Mr. X and Tyrant in the 2 remakes, where you can tell where he is by the footsteps. So I think, and I believe there's a similar enemy in this game, where you're going to want to play it with a good pair of headphones.
Yeah.
So you can track where he's at. Because I played RE2 Remake tracking Mr. X most of the time by his footsteps. Where I'll be like, okay, he's above me. He's on the floor above me. So I think I'm good right now. And then, like, the best part is when you trigger him by a distance, like you shoot your gun and hear the footsteps pick up, you're like, oh crap. And they really seem to be laying into that, because there was some gameplay footage that came out for PlayStation 5 in the past week, I think, and it showed some combat. It was not very exciting combat. It was very slow, but the environment looked freaking great. And there was some of that whole stuff of Ethan dealing with, like, you could hear the footsteps and her going about her business inside the house while you're operating.
Yeah.
If they do really lean into that, because, like, here's the thing, though. Like, I hate to break it to all the people who are super excited about her. This is Resident Evil. She'll become a lizard monster about 2 hours into that game. Like, everybody remembers Tyrant, but Tyrant becomes a completely different thing, like, 2 hours into RE3. Mr. X becomes a monster. Like, all these guys become, like, 4 stages. Wesker becomes, like, a 6-stage monster at the end of his story. But I do like the idea of her operating in the ward while you're trying to sneak around. And it's a scary freak. Also, that thing looks like she's a vampire. So, like, I don't know if, like, and werewolves are in that thing. So things are going to get weird.
I have a feeling this game's going to go crazy. And
I'm excited.
I'm very excited. When I heard how crazy this Resident Evil seems to get, I'm like, I'm all on board for it. So I was like, let's get scared and let's get crazy. That's a good combination.
I know Nick doesn't like scary games, but he's going to be playing this with us. So let's see how this goes. Because I am like the veteran of the franchise. Mike was in the middle ground. I don't think Nick's ever played a Resident Evil game.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, so I feel like it's going to be a really good, good blend here. It's going to be a really scary, fun game. What section are we playing up to?
We are playing... I'm just going to read this comment here because I reached out in the Resident Evil subreddit because I didn't want any spoilers. so I didn't want to dig through a guide because on our Dead Space discussion, I was
Yeah.
spoiled the plot twists of the game because I was looking up chapter names and seeing how long the chapters were. So I reached out to Reddit. So thank you for Section None for setting the halfway point for this podcast. He says, after playing Resident Evil 7 for like 100 hours, I can definitely say that the clear halfway point of the game is right when you enter Lucas's Playhouse. It ideally separates 50-50 of the total playtime in this game. So we're going to play until we enter something called Lucas's Playhouse, which sounds
Utterly
really weird and
terrifying.
terrifying. So that seems like a good halfway point. So I will take Section None's word for it. There was a few others that people were saying, something involving like a Zoe or Mia, but this, when someone says I played 100 hours of this game, you kind of got to take their stuff with a little more weight. So
100 hours. I mean, this game's like 10-hour game. So
that's
he's played-
10 playthroughs. So
I feel like he's probably pretty aware of what he's doing here.
yeah. So
Shout out to him. Thank you for answering our wonderful question.
and if you want to play along with us, this game is very available.
It's on everything.
It's on sale right now, I believe, on PlayStation for $10. But if you have a PS5 and with PS Plus, it's free as a part of the PS Plus collection. It's on Game Pass, right?
It's on Game Pass. That's how I'm playing it. It's also on sale right now in the Xbox store
For $10,
I wanna say
right?
It's like $10, and that's for the definitive edition.
Wow.
You can play it on Switch with the streaming option. Is that available for the United States? It's on the store.
I think it's only available in Japan. Did they make it available for the US?
It's on the store.
What?
Because I thought, how stupid would it be if I played this on Switch?
How good's your internet connection?
But,
I tried playing it, but it was kind of trying to connect to a Japanese server, and I didn't make it like 10 steps before I was like, oh no, because they give you a trial to see if it can even work.
Maybe it's on the store. I know it's on the store.
I think there's a free trial, so you might.
Yeah, who knows? Play it on a different console.
play it wherever you can, and
if you're brave enough to play it on VR, please tell us.
oh no.
I want to know. Like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just saying, Nick got VR. Maybe I could talk Nick into playing it on VR. But I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see how this goes. This is a big thing. I might, if I like this, I might go straight into RE8. Like, it'd be really fun to play RE7, and then the day I finish it, maybe go into RE8 and see how, because like I said, I think RE8 visually looks really, really cool. I think there's a lot of cool stuff there. I think, hey, like, let's prep for some RE8.
I'm already thinking I'm gonna need a break after this because
I'm notorious.
I'm ready to be scared, but at the same time, I'm ready to be scared for about 10 hours. You got me until then.
We have 2 weeks to play this 4-hour
The first section,
5-hour section.
However long.
So I'm going to probably play it a lot during the day, so it won't be too scary. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it might be fun. I might play a little bit tonight. Get scared.
We'll play up until Lucas's Playhouse as one last reminder.
But I'm also notorious that I'll keep playing something till it's done and be like, oh crap. Got a week and a half before I talk about this. State of the Save. You can send your emails to stateofthesave@gmail.com. You can give us 5-star ratings on iTunes, Google Podcast, all those fun podcast apps.
Whichever apps have ratings, I don't know anymore.
I think Stitcher does. I know Spotify doesn't. Subscribe so you don't miss out on any of these episodes or our awesome Broken Foul Corrupted show. Definitely shoot us some emails. Talk about how you feel about things. We're always looking for good feedback, stuff like that, so we can make the show even better. Looking forward to having Nick back on the next episode. Know he missed everybody.
I'm ready to be called a nerd. That's
okay. He'll probably have a list. But yeah, thank you guys. It was a fun episode. Y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the flip side.